Hey guys, my name is Deborah. This is Capricorn Soul Tribe Tarot. This video will be put out for our members first, okay? I will be doing part 3 of North Node in Virgo. At the time, my phone was out of storage space, so I had to make 3 videos. I have everything straightened out now, so I'm going to do part 3 North Node in Virgo. Okay, and if you are just tuning into this video, this is the book we're reading, Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. Okay, that's the book. And if you're seeing this, if you're on the channel for the first time, I'm going to go through this whole book. It'll serve as an audio book. You can listen to it, or you can buy the book and follow along. You can get the book on Amazon.com or a website called Alibris, A-L-I-B-R-I-S. I will put that in the description box, and you can get the book for a little less money, okay? If anyone new watching this, if you're watching this right now, make sure you go back and watch part 1 and part 2. Anyway, I'll go over again what the North Node is. Your North Node symbolizes where you're going in this lifetime, and it reveals the energy you need to harness in order to fulfill your soul's mission. So the South Node is like your past life, all right? So if you are a North Node in Virgo, then your South Node would be Pisces, because Pisces and Virgo Pisces is the opposite sign of Virgo. That's how that works. So your South Node is past life lessons you've learned. And this is for people that want to evolve into their North Node. All right? So also, if you want to find your North Node, you would need to go to www.astrologycafe.com. All right? There you would put in your name, date of birth, city of birth, where you're born. If you don't know the time of your birth, you can still get your North Node. You just won't be able to get your rising sign. But this is a great help to help you to figure that out. I think that's all I have to say about that part. All right, let's go to part 3 of North Node in Virgo. This was a long chapter too, so okay, let's get busy here. Let's get started. We left off the section translating love into service. All right. Translating love into service. In past lives, Virgo North Node people gained a lot of understanding and love they want to share. Thus, in this lifetime, they need to focus, participate, and make their wisdom available to others. They are learning how to translate love into service and how to reconnect with the feelings of boundless love and compassion within themselves. They also have healing talents stemming from a tremendous power of faith once they tap into it. Not infrequently, miraculous healing has occurred in their own lives. They truly understand that physical ailments have a deeper psychological basis on a higher spiritual dimension. Once they understand the reason behind the ailment, often the healing occurs spontaneously. It is the power of faith combined with their perception of the bigger picture that precipitates those cures. They make great nurses and doctors, as their very presence can evoke faith in others. They are also hands-on healers. That's why it's best for them to be physically involved in life, touching objects, pets, or people to help themselves get grounded. When they are fully present in the physical realm, all their psychic, spiritual abilities can come forth. As they start healing people, staying in the moment and watching the details of where the energy is going and how the other person is responding, their psyche opens and they see exactly where to put their hands for maximum effort. When they do this healing work, they can tell where the other person is out of touch with his or her inner energies. They long to activate those energies so the person can open to his or her own wholeness. Through deep introspection and self-examination, these people have become truly non-judgmental of others. They have a deep understanding of the common plight of humankind, knowing that everyone is doing the best they can with the light they have right now. This understanding gives them compassion and acceptance of others. However, these folks must learn to separate being non-judgmental in the moral realm from the necessity of practical discrimination. Many times, out of compassion or an effort to bring about healing, these folks withdraw and yield to the wills of more assertive personalities. For example, I had a client with this nodal position who was severely harassed on her job for 9 months. She was an assistant nurse and had a problem with one man at the hospital. She kept silently sending him love, trying to heal the situation, but much to her surprise, it didn't do any good. She became so distressed she decided to quit the job she loved. Then one night the man threatened her life, and she finally let someone know what had been going on. Eventually the man lost his job, but it cost my client 9 months of severe distress. This is a perfect example of what does and does not work for Virgo North Node people. This woman allowed herself to be victimized for 9 months rather than actively participate to correct the problem, silently sending the violator light, compassion, understanding, and love. In past lives, the method worked, but not in this lifetime. Of course, it's always a good idea to send others light, but what works for these folks is taking physical action to correct negative circumstances. So Virgo North Node, you're very hands-on. Right? Needs, self-confidence. Virgo North Node people need to build self-confidence in this lifetime. Because of their sensitive natures, they are operating with underlying feelings of helplessness and constant vulnerability. This can all easily lead to free-floating anxiety. They cannot release these feelings until they determine the cause. When they usually recognize that their worries have little connection with reality, or they see how to avoid falling into circumstances that subconsciously provoke the anxiety. This process generally goes more smoothly with outside help from a counselor or a trusted friend. Another point of view will steady them and keep them from turning inward. For example, I had a client with this nodal position who was extremely anxious about accepting a job that looked very good on paper. It was exactly what he wanted, and the person making the offer promised him the world. However, he felt anxious about it without understanding why. While explaining it to me, he mentioned that he had previously worked in the part of the country with bittersweet results. He had made lots of money but felt very isolated socially as there was a strong bias against his particular lifestyle. He was now at a time in his life when his social life was as important to him as his financial success. Once he understood where the anxiety was coming from, he connected with reality and made a confident decision not to accept the job. Self-confidence is not innate for Virgo North Node people. They have a deep anxiety owing to their lack of practical experience in the world. Confidence is a byproduct of successful experience, and these folks haven't had enough past life experience in the world to know how truly effective they can be. However, they will find their confidence growing by leaps and bounds in every area of their lives where they consciously set goals. When they bypass their emotions and use their powerful abilities to focus on reaching an objective, they can be masters at discriminating between what works and what doesn't. And they can succeed in an amazingly short period of time. Once they get the idea, there is no stopping them. The next section is building confidence through worldly experience. Since Virgo North Node people don't have a lot of worldly success memories in their subconscious, worldly things are not second nature to them. Sometimes they're afraid if they do something wrong, they can't have what they want. Actually, that's true, but it's not a moral or ethical issue, just a practical one. For these folks, a hands-on approach is best, learning by doing, experimenting, finding out what does and doesn't work through their own process. Virgo North Nodes are not theoretically based people who regard books as the final authority. They want practical results. People who regard books as the final authority, they want practical results. I read that twice. They want to implement their vision and to make it work in the physical world, and only they can do it. They have no ego attachment to being right and are willing to make mistakes in the process of finding out how to do things successfully. This natural openness and humility works to their advantage, since mistakes are a necessary part of learning. Successes tell a person that he or she is correct in pursuing the present pathway with the techniques he or she is using. Mistakes indicate being off track. These folks are usually quick studies, and it doesn't take them long to get the idea of what works and what doesn't in any situation. Past life experiences in asylums are also very connected with the karma of Virgo North Node people. This is why in the present incarnation they may fear losing it or going crazy. It is possible that part of their psyches went out of balance in the past. Work is an excellent antidote for them in this lifetime. When they focus on their job and positive results, whatever part of their psyche was out of balance will come into permanent alignment through the practical necessity of getting the job done. These people must be willing to take what may seem to be enormous risks to gain the confidence that comes from actively participating in life. For example, they may have all kinds of fears about looking for a job, but as soon as they move their feet forward, cuts through their fears. There is no way they can think beyond the anxiety. It is activity that gets them past an innate lack of confidence. Okay, we have next section is vulnerability. Virgo North Node people are extremely sensitive, and they tend to think that others are just as sensitive. When they look closely, they can see beyond the mask that other people present into what is really going on, the others' motives, desires, and insecurities. They can do this because they are non-judgmental. The resulting compassion allows them to see the inner worlds of others. Because they have this ability, they assume that others can do the same. Thus, they feel very vulnerable when they are out in the world. What they must recognize is that others cannot see into them, for others have not yet experienced the self-purification required to look deeply behind people's masks. They worry about others judging them, yet holding judgments and preconceptions are the very traits that block others from this ability. Understanding this can be very liberating for these folks. They can act as if they have loads of self-confidence, and others will believe it. When Virgo North Node people look at others, they can see into their very souls and thus feel tremendous compassion for them. But when others look at them, they only see self-portraits painted by these folks. In this way, Virgo North Node people can control much of what happens in their lives in a constructive way by putting up a strong front. These people also assume that others are aware of how sensitive they are, of how much they yield and withhold to avoid hurting others. But this is not correct. This is why these folks must establish well-defined boundaries and let other people know when they get hurt. Rather than cry and give up, they should clearly define what is going on for the other person and set a clear, constructive course of mutual action. Okay. Next section is outward focus, participation. Virgo North Node people tend to have too much inward focus. One of my clients with this nodal position frequently said, "I can overcome this if I just go inside myself and think about it." My counsel was always, no, actively participate to bring order to the situation. It can be tough to find out what is going on in these folks' mind, since their first instinct is to withdraw. It may not be easy for others to understand them, so sometimes their feelings don't get taken into account. To effectively enlist their participation, it may be necessary to ask them specific questions to determine what the situation looks like to them, how they feel about it, and what they want. Once they are clear about what they want to create, they will initiate action. Their tendency to inward focus especially works to their disadvantage in social interactions. When they are relating with someone, if they become conscious of themselves and lose sight of the other person, they become anxious and withdraw. Their purpose in this lifetime is to serve others. When they stay focused on the other person and what they can do to help, they feel confident because they are on the path. They are on path. But when they begin to question their own intent or how they are coming across to the other person, the focus shifts to themselves and they can become anxious. The key for Virgo North Node people is in connecting and problem solving with others. By helping others actively take steps in order to bring order to the situation, they help themselves. As long as they remember that their motive is to be helpful, they are filled with the confidence they need to interact joyfully. After all, if their primary motive is to be of service, they have nothing to lose. Keeping this in mind is very empowering for them. By concentrating on the other person and solving the problem, through an orderly structure. Their powerful focus helps create productive results. Excuse me. These people have a tremendous ability to translate the flow of life into organized form. Once they have a specific goal, everything seems to fall into place. The key for them is focus. By simply focusing on their objective, the steps unfold before them in a perfect orderly sequence that proves to be the most efficient way of reaching their goal. In difficult situations, they can see the areas of volatility, and by putting energy into creating a more stable base at the beginning, they prevent things from blowing up later on. The ability to perfect things in the physical realm is a gift they were born with, and they are far better at it than anyone else on this planet. Yet, it is a new gift, and they may not know they have it. It is like finding a new room inside themselves that holds talents for restoring things to order, analyzing, and successfully applying spiritual ethics in the material world. If they can open the door to that new room, they will find they have gifts for bringing a vision of spiritual love and order into their environment. Okay, next section is discrimination. In past lives, Virgo North Node people gained a spiritual understanding of life. Although much of what they learned was accurate, some of the teachings were inaccurate or incomplete. They can learn to discriminate by experimenting with what actually works on a tangible level. For example, they may have been taught that having a compassionate love for all beings is truth, but they may have not been taught the nuts and bolts of how to apply that truth in the world as it currently exists in ways that are not harmful to themselves or others. It's up to them to learn how to do it, and they are experts at practical application once they realize this is what they need to do. These people are learning the lessons of clarity and discrimination in every area of their lives. What is real and what is fantasy? What is beneficial and what is destructive? Who really needs their help and who just wants sympathy? When they are serving and when they are being victimized, they need to differentiate so that they can clear the consciousness and begin to create an efficient order that brings strength, stability, and confidence to their lives. The folks in this nodal group usually are accurate in their intuitive sense of a situation, but don't trust themselves until they have the details to back up their intuition. This process can lead to selective viewing, only seeing information that will substantiate their hunch. For example, if they project that a person is a certain way, eventually the person will do something that, taken out of context, supports their theory. But the whole process is really in their own minds. If, on the other hand, they feel uneasy with someone but are able to put aside their feelings and watch the reality of that person, they can find out what is actually going on, but they must be objective. For example, if they think that someone keeps putting them down, the best thing is to stand aside and watch how the person behaves toward others. If that person is putting others down, then they know their feeling is justified. Next section is taking action versus giving up. Virgo North Node people must fight a tendency to give up. Overcoming opposition is part of the process necessary for them to gain inner strength and self-confidence. All of us lack self-confidence in areas where we lack experience. The difference is that most people don't surrender when faced with opposition. In this lifetime, Virgo North Node people are learning not to give up. One resolution to the habitual pattern of withdrawal and surrender is to realize that their life doesn't get any better when they pull inward and give up. The universe keeps bringing them the same situation with different people so they can break through it and experience the vitality of life. People who are involved with these folks need to recognize that when Virgo North Nodes pull back, they don't mean to be hurtful. Sometimes they need their partners to pry them loose from their self-imposed isolation. However, this must be done gently with acceptance and love, rather than in a condemning or harsh way. At times, rescue is nice for these folks. When a crisis occurs, they must fight their tendency not to interfere and instead increase their participation in a constructive way. Then they win, and so does everyone around them. For example, I had a Virgo North Node client who had been head over heels in love with a man, and he with her for 5 years. They seemed the perfect match. However, She was 7 years older, a factor that, unknown to her, troubled him. One day he came to her in great pain and broke off the relationship, explaining that the only reason was the age difference. My client was devastated, but rather than object, she pulled back and allowed him to leave. He went to Europe, married a woman younger than himself, and had a child. He came back on business and took my client to dinner. He was miserable, still in love with her, but it was too late to turn everyone's lives around. Rather than withdraw, my client should have moved forward and participated in creating the results she desired by saying, "Wait a minute, we can work this out." The results might have been a victory for them both. I'm going to get me a little drink of water here, guys. Okay. Next section is extreme versus moderation. Virgo North Node people sometimes respond to others in extremes, being overly focused or totally unfocused, too trusting or too suspicious, a complete doormat, or totally aloof and invulnerable. They can be very intense emotionally. To avoid problems, they need to concentrate on the practical aspects of each situation, make accurate evaluations of the people involved, and then decide on the appropriate energy and the most productive approach. This problem with extremes is also related to their tendency to daydream rather than to focus on the changing details of the here and now. For example, if Virgo North Node people are involved in a relationship when they are getting hurt, it takes a long time to recognize what is happening. They're lost in their daydreams about the relationship rather than being present on a moment-to-moment basis. When they come to and realize what is going on, they withdraw. They tend to withdraw too far for too long and not notice if the relationship changes to better accommodate their needs. They inadvertently give inaccurate signals to their mate or coworkers, first giving the impression that they can be taken advantage of without objecting, and then suddenly becoming totally unreachable. By staying present in the situation as it unfolds, these folks can adapt their responses to the reality of what is happening and have more positive relationships. Virgo North Node people are learning to act with moderation in every aspect of their lives. This is easy when they take circumstances into account objectively. They only go to extremes when they are absorbed in their own reactions to outside stimuli. The path of moderation is found by taking other people into account, focusing on the details of what is going on, and working on a practical resolution to the situation at hand. These folks must learn how to deal with life on a practical, goal-oriented level. For example, if they own a business and are upset with their employees, they should not overlook what is happening out of compassion or react with self-sacrifice and become a workaholic or get angry at their employees. They need to objectively observe the details of the situation and put together a set of rules and regulations that become part of the work environment. Only those employees who follow rules will be allowed to stay. Actually, these folks have great job karma, and their employees and co-workers invariably love them. Yet, to prevent being taken advantage of, they must define job boundaries and put them in writing. This translates their vision for their employees and allows everyone to work together towards a common goal. Next section is order, restoring order to chaos. Virgo North Node people gravitate to situations where something needs to be done to create an existing problem. Since they have the ability to solve problems in situations of chaos or neglect, their job is to create order by participating in the physical world to set things right. When these folks see chaotic situations around them, their first reaction, past life tendency, is to withdraw, and the whole thing falls apart. In this lifetime, when something isn't working, they need to roll up their sleeves and get further into it. When they give up, everybody loses because others are counting on them, subconsciously, to get involved. When there's a problem, it's the universe saying to them, "Hey, We need some help here in the material world. It is also very important for Virgo North Node people to keep an orderly environment both in the home and at work. Having order and organization around them gives them clarity and strength in their daily lives. It is essential that these folks, more than any other nodal position, take the time to keep themselves organized on the physical level. On the psychological level, chaos and confusion are especially detrimental. These things undermine their confidence to operate in the world. Having their physical environment in order gives them a sense of psychological order, which empowers them to function confidently. Actually, the process of ordering the environment is healthy for Virgo North Node people. When they feel a sense of inner anxiety, whether they are male or female, sometimes the best thing to do is pick up the vacuum cleaner, going through paperwork, doing the dishes, dusting, putting the environment in order. Simple tasks can be therapeutic for these folks. Physically moving in a constructive way transforms their inner anxiety into productivity. All right, next section is structure and planning. In the area of planning, these folks sometimes go to extremes. They can spend so much time planning their lives that they forget to live them. This may appear as an overly conscientious workaholic phase. Then they compensate by not planning anything at all, lose their strength, and dissolve into a life with no boundaries. It is two sides of the same coin. The desire to become lost, either in activity or in formlessness, and not to take responsibility for creating the structures that would give balance to their lives. Much of this tendency is owing to past life experiences when other people were responsible for creating their routines. However, in this lifetime, it's up to them. To give their lives proper structure and healing, Virgo North Node people need to consciously define their goals and be able to adjust their use of time accordingly. What works best is to allot time, whether it is 1/2 hour each morning or 2 hours once a week, for consistently reevaluating their schedules. For example, they may determine that they need time for work, exercise, friendships, play, romance, meditation, music, and so on. It is to their advantage to make up a list of the various aspects of their life that are important to them and consciously structure their weekly routine to allot time for each. This can help them considerably in achieving a fulfilled and balanced life. Also, as they organize themselves in a physical way, they gain a clearer picture of exactly where they are in different areas of their lives. For example, I had a client with this nodal position who felt vaguely suspicious about her stockbroker. To settle her fears, she took all of her records of stock sales since she had been working with him and calculated exactly how much money she had made on the transactions and how much money he had made on the commissions. Once she had the facts and figures in front of her, she could determine the reality of the situation, and the feelings of her anxiety dissolved. Relationships. This is not a victim lifetime, and Virgo North Node people are learning how to say no and not allow themselves to be abused in their relationships. Sometimes they say no very gently, and the people who are abusing them don't get the message. But these folks need to let others know when there is inequity in giving in, or when they need more support before they withdraw from the relationship. If someone isn't getting the message, it is simply an indication that Virgo North Node should change her approach. We all have levels of sensitivity. Some of us are very sensitive, and some of us need to be hit over the head. Therefore, if the abuse continues, Virgo North Node should keep upping the intensity of her no until the other person hears her. Romantic relationships. In romantic relationships, Virgo North Node people may once again go to extremes with either total aloofness and lack of participation or total submission to the other person. Again, walking the middle of the road of moderation is their key to success. One obstacle that keeps them from finding this middle road is that the minute they see a person they care about romantically, they start giving an inch and then giving a mile, and before you know it, they've lost themselves. Once these folks become romantically involved and the other person doesn't give them what they want, they start trying to talk themselves out of their own limits. All right, maybe I'm being too rigid. Then they dissolve into a confused state in which they just go along without standing up for themselves. This usually doesn't happen in their friendships because they aren't so afraid of losing friends. And if their job is interfering with their health or well-being, they will make the decisions to move on. But when an intimate personal relationship is at stake, they are terribly afraid of loss. Another trap they face is giving up their self-respect. They have a tendency to value the person they see romantically more than they value themselves. They make the other person their center. Once they have done that, they are lost. For romantic relationships to work for them, they must value the relationship more than just the other person. When they fall in love, these folks also tend to create the reality they want in their minds, and then they live it. This is their payoff for putting the other person at the center. They create a blissful atmosphere through a combination of psychic attunement and an active imagination. It's almost as though these folks are having a love affair in their own minds. However, this breaks down when the fantasy is far too removed from reality. They need to keep inviting the other person's input into their fantasy for realistic grounding and for avoiding deep disappointment. They should only allow themselves just so many fantasies, or allot only a certain amount of time to fantasize. You can have 5 minutes of fantasy and then go to the next thing. The next thing should require a focus. Is the antithesis of fantasy, an activity that is mathematical, balancing the checkbook, paying bills, etc., physical, doing the dishes, vacuuming, etc., or something else that requires precise objective thinking. This can help them break with the energy of fantasy and come back into balance. Virgo North Node people need to consistently monitor their relationships. Are they putting in too much or too little energy? Is there a balance between giving and receiving? Is their participation leading to feelings of confidence and feelings of inadequacy? They must be willing to let the other person know where their boundaries are. This fosters respect and allows them to experience the joys of participating and working with another toward a mutual goal. Once they become committed, it is helpful for both parties to write down their goals for the relationship. The clearer they are about what they want to create, the greater their chances for success. The goals should be reevaluated from time to time as the relationship changes. In a marriage, shared goals might include mutual support, such as going out for a romantic dinner 2 nights a month, encouragement in teaching individual aims, handling money together in a joyful way, giving each other confidence, and seeing a marriage counselor once a year to keep the relationship tuned up. Writing down these objectives helps engender a practical approach. If Virgo North Node people feel confused in their relationship, there may be too great a discrepancy between the reality of what is occurring and their vision of how they would like things to be. In that case, they must first clarify their thinking about the goals and what they would like to create in their relationship. Then, armed with the strength that comes from having defined their limits in their own mind, they can approach their partner and gain clarity. In opening this dialogue, it is best for them to refrain from communicating their goals and limits first. Instead, they should actively listen to the other person's vision of the relationship. Then they can determine whether or not they fit appropriately with that person. If they communicate their goals and limits first, they set themselves up to be fooled, cajoled, or appeased, as the other person may seem to agree in order to keep them involved. If, excuse me, y'all, water. Get some water. I'm going to start at this section down here. Again, I'm going to read this paragraph again. In opening this dialogue, it is best for them to refrain from communicating their goals and limits first. Instead, they should actively listen to the other person's vision of the relationship. Then they can determine whether or not they fit appropriately with that person. If they communicate their goals and limits first, they set themselves up to be fooled, cajoled, or appeased, as the other person may seem to agree in order to keep them involved. If the Virgo North Node person has determined it's a fit, both partners' goals truly do align, then they can define their limits and their negotiations can begin. But if in fact he determines that it is not a fit, their vision and their limits are incompatible, then Virgo North Node must summon the discipline to break off the relationship or reshape it in a form that does work. For example, a friendship instead of a marriage. His inclination is to fantasize about how it could eventually work out and to stick it out, hoping that he can change the other person. This process does not work. It leads not only to a waste of time and energy, but to much disappointment and hurt. When these folks do enter into a romantic relationship, they must pay special attention to their interaction during the first few weeks. If they realize, when they are still working towards full participation, that the relationship isn't going to succeed, they should get out immediately. They must be honest with themselves that this is not the ideal situation and determine if the limits they had defined for themselves will work within the reality of the relationship. Staying in touch with reality in every form, in every area of their lives will make their lives work. It is important for them not to live in a fantasy. Again, it is important for them not to live in a fantasy. Attraction. Virgo North Node people are often attracted to people with qualities that they feel they lack. Strength, assertiveness, decisiveness, and the like. They attach themselves to the person in an attempt to emulate him and absorb these qualities, rather than recognizing that they want that certain trait. They feel very strongly that they want the other person. They need to be conscious of this problem when entering into an intimate relationship. As part of this dynamic, sometimes they allow the other person to treat them badly in order to get what they think they want. Until they've gained the missing quality themselves, they are afraid to confront the other person and run the risk of loss. By recognizing the quality in the other person that they are attracted to, they can consciously put developing that quality within themselves at the center of the relationship rather than the other person. This approach gives them more objectivity and enough emotional distance to maintain their own identity, which will help the relationship work more smoothly and honestly for both partners. It also helps these folks remain aware of supply. Just as there are many potential friendships that will fulfill them and many potential jobs that they would enjoy, likewise, there are many potential intimate relationships that they would find satisfying. Thus, if the relationship they are involved in is hurtful, they should never forget that they can afford to take the chance of moving on. Fantasy versus reality. In their professional lives, Virgo North Node people can be practical and realistic. If they would apply the same mechanisms to their romances, their personal lives may also be successful and run smoothly. However, in their personal lives, they tend to live in a fantasy world and use their imaginations in some ways that ultimately disappoint them. When they find someone who appeals to them romantically, they often begin to fantasize about what the other person is like. They create an entire fantasy of the other person, which they project onto the other person. Wow. Then when they relate to this person, it's always in terms of how closely he or she matches their fantasy, and they always feel let down. In actuality, they may never have seen who the other person really was. The other person may be a better match for them than their fantasy person. But when the behavior of the love object varies too radically from the picture these folks have projected, they retreat. They withdraw their projection and become non-communicative, and their partners never quite understand why they suddenly become so unreachable. The Virgo North Node person becomes confused and disappointed. The partner becomes angry and provocative. The way out of this dilemma is through discrimination. Virgo North Node people must deliberately postpone their fantasy until they have had time to pay careful attention to who the other person really is. By objectively analyzing the partner's values, behaviors, and beliefs. They can respond to how the person makes them feel in the here and now. In the long run, reality is much more satisfying than the layers of projection. Interesting. Romantic fog, adoration, and blind faith. These folks often begin a romance wearing rose-colored glasses. They are in a romantic fog created by their connection with the other person, which insulates them from any harsh realities that might exist in their relationship. These glitches may be very apparent to everyone else, but not to Virgo North Nodes. They idealize their partner, fall in love with that ideal, and then project a future of living happily ever after. Their daydreams and fantasies seem so real that they even use them as a basis for making practical plans. Until the discrepancy between ideal and reality becomes too great, maybe an incident occurs that demonstrates the reality of the situation, and in an instant, their entire fantasy pops. For example, the Virgo North Node person, seeing how smoothly relationship is going, may assume that marriage is the natural outcome. The other person may never directly dispute the possibility and allow discussions about marriage to pass by without comment. Then, seemingly out of the blue, the other person announces that he doesn't want to marry anyone ever. The Virgo North Node is shocked and bewildered and begins to doubt herself. The event can nearly destroy her confidence in her own perceptions, and it can take her years to get over it. To avoid such a disaster, these folks need to stay focused in the here and now, watch the details of the relationship unfold, and make corrections when necessary. They can experience the joys of romance and fantasy once they have established the relationship on a firm and practical foundation. But they cannot indulge in the irresponsible aspect of romantic fantasy and blind dependence without repercussion. These people have an extraordinary capacity to make their dreams come true, manifesting their visions on a tangible level. This applies to romantic life as well as professional life. They need to approach their goals on a practical level. Get more water, y'all. Practical strategies for interaction. Before falling too much in love, Virgo North Node people should clearly define the goals and objectives of the other person, as well as their own. They must set limits. What do I want? What am I willing to accept? What am I not willing to accept? It is to their advantage to avoid the possibility of deception, even if it is unintentional, by asking practical key questions at appropriate times. Is the other person married or living someone? Has he been married before? Why does this marriage end? How does he feel about commitment? Some answers may change as the relationship progresses, so it is beneficial to ask these kinds of questions from time to time. These folks need an incredible amount of space. They need alone time to pull back from the world and simply be, so they can regenerate and reconnect with their power, their energy, and their vision. They know they must do this even though they can't explain why, and sometimes they find it very difficult to communicate their need to those who are close to them. When they try to communicate their need to pull back, often the other person responds by talking them out of it, or not honoring themselves, or not honoring their boundaries in some other way. Then they try non-communication and simply withdraw without explanation. This alienates and infuriates the other person, who don't understand what's going on. The best bet is to focus on a plan with a time schedule. How much time alone will they need? And when can they rejoin the other person? Then they approach the partner with a clear proposal. Here is one practical approach. Number 1, share the vision. This is what I would like to create for us. A happy time together in which we can really devote attention to each other. Number 2, share the practical details. Now there are certain things I have to take care of before I can spend this kind of time with you. I need to take care of some shopping, spend time with my folks, and have some alone time to recharge my batteries before seeing you. 3, share the plan. So, I'm going to need the next 3 days to take care of these things. I'll call you on Thursday, and I'd like to get together on Friday. In making this communication, Virgo North Node people must come from a focused place where they are in control. These folks are fantastic at making plans. They can see how to organize all the details to work in everyone's best interest. Others will go along with them if they come from an in-charge position rather than a helpless position. When Virgo North Node people become too overwhelmed with a profusion of events in their lives, they sometimes react by taking a hiatus, extracting themselves from a situation until they can see it more clearly and handle it more effectively. However, a breach of trust can occur if they don't notify the other person in advance that they will be on hiatus, especially if there's no indication of how long that break is going to be. No matter how difficult, forthright communication their plans is the key to positive relationships. Owing to a past life residue of hermitage in one form or another, these folks were not born with a natural knowledge of how to maintain long-term relationships. As priests, they may have been privy to the private experiences of others, but lack the direct knowledge of repeated personal experiences. Thus, when things go wrong in a relationship, they may avoid fighting or expressing any strong emotion. They don't realize that the tension is a call from their partner to draw closer and participate, using their incredible talent to create order out of chaos. Virgo North Node people must be willing to roll up their sleeves, walk directly into chaos, and reorganize. They must recognize that chaos in relationships is a signal that it is time for more efficiency in the nuts and bolts operation of daily life, and to develop greater feelings of closeness. These folks are masters at straightening out problems as soon as they are willing to participate 100% in creating practical solutions. Next section is goals, self-development. Virgo North Node people are learning how to rewire their own internal mechanisms so that their interactions with others produce happier, more productive results. These folks love self-help programs and do well with anything involving analysis and technique. They have a special talent for successfully working on themselves so that their style of being stimulates positive results in the world. They have a natural understanding of psychology on a very deep and healing level, which empowers them to change themselves. When they exercise their talents, working on getting their own house in order, they are energized, happy, and productive. To facilitate coming out of their shell, these folks should also develop their generosity. They have an innate capacity to give others the confidence of seeing that there is structure in the world. Next section is self-sufficiency. Virgo North Node people need to develop self-sufficiency so that they have the confidence to create healthy, mutually empowering relationships. They have had too many incarnations of helplessness and reliance on large organizations for their survival. In striving towards self-sufficiency, these folks create the strength that allows them to be vulnerable in a balanced way. If they are reliant on someone else for their sense of well-being, their finances, or other things, they can easily become complete surrender of their power. There is also the problem of their natural affinity for adoration and devotion. When they lived in monasteries, devotion to a spiritual ideal was appropriate, but now devotion to the wrong human being can be their downfall. That's why it is essential for these folks to be discriminating regarding to whom or what they give their devotion to. In the right hands, their devotion will be understood and appreciated. In the wrong hands, it could lead to victimization. These folks are learning to depend on people to be themselves. They need to watch and see who people really are, and then depend on them to be consistent in areas that are clearly intrinsic to their nature. For example, if a person is monogamous by nature, then Virgo North Node can probably depend on monogamy. If a person does what he says he is going to do, Virgo North Node can count on him to keep his word. And if a person is insensitive, Virgo North Node can probably rely on that trait continuing as well. As long as Virgo North Node people remain self-sufficient, they are whole. They can function as a total person in every relationship. For them, being self-sufficient doesn't mean that they won't rely on others. It means they won't fall apart if others don't come through for them in the way they expect. Next section is creating routines. Owing to past lives in which other people controlled their time and schedules, Virgo North Node people are not accustomed to organizing themselves so that all parts of their lives fall into order. Yet in this lifetime, they must plan on how to use their time constructively. Now they are free. They are making their own rules and voluntarily following them. Routines are absolutely essential to keep their lives from dissolving, which for them means facing limitless fears and feelings of insecurity. They need to personally take charge and structure their time so that their needs can be met in every area. Diet. Diet and health are important for these folks. In past lives, monasteries or institutions took the responsibility of maintaining a balanced diet for them. In this lifetime, they must do it themselves. They are extremely sensitive and easily affected by different foods. They should notice the effect of certain foods and moderate their diet accordingly. For example, spaciness does not work for them in this lifetime. They need to eat foods that help them feel grounded, solid, and confident. They may do well to eliminate sugar if they notice it causes anxiety or lack of focus. They also require a regular exercise program, which helps them feel physically strong so their self-confidence can blossom. More than any other nodal position, this is key right here, more than any nodal position, than any north node, any of the north nodes, these folks must be conscious of not overindulging in alcohol or drugs. They just don't have the tolerance for it. Their mindset is already unfocused, and drugs or alcohol can affect them in an unhealthy, exaggerated way. Next section is an orderly environment. An orderly environment is essential for Virgo North Node people. They do not do well with chaos. It is very important for them to keep home and office neat, clean, and organized. Again, the underlying issue is confidence. When the environment is neat and orderly, they feel stronger and more confident in their ability to create order in the world outside themselves. Okay, paying bills. Next section, paying bills. Paying bills on time is another must routine for Virgo North Nodes. Staying on top of the details creates an inner security that is essential for them to operate with confidence and ease in the world. They are actually dynamos, capable of accomplishing in 1 hour what it would take the average person 5 hours to complete. The issue is not a lack of talent, but rather soothing their psychological state so that they are up to the challenge of facing the world. Making lists. Lists are excellent for helping these folks organize their thinking. Planning allows them to focus their mental energy and gain a sense of orderly participation and strength in the material world. In decision making, it may help them to physically write out all the pros and cons of the issue on paper so that the right path becomes clear. Virgo North Node people do well with daily planners and elaborate organizing systems. Organizing details gives them more confidence in their capacity to implement their vision. Exercise. A regular program of physical exercise is essential for these folks. Going to the gym 3 times a week to give the body a workout seems like a small thing, but in their case, the routine gives them a feeling of solid self-worth and well-being. The positive repercussions of taking charge with a regular exercise routine reinforce their emotional, mental, and spiritual power as well as their physical energy. Pets. Pets can be a real plus for Virgo North Node people. A pet forces them into a routine and gives them someone else to take care of on a tangible level. At the same time, pets provide a secure outlet for the unconditional love without boundaries that Virgo North nodes want so much to give. With pets, they are able to strike a proper balance between unconditional love and discipline. If this could be applied to their relationships with people, it would go a long way in teaching them how to have happy, healthy, human relationships. Punctuality. These folks have trouble being on time because in past lives other people prompted them, but it is now important for them to learn to be on time. This is largely owing to the difference that it makes in their level of self-confidence. If they are late, they feel guilty. This triggers their feeling of being less than others. To feel confident, they must do their part to the last detail. If they are on time, they have participated according to the rules and can deal with whatever happens from that point forward. But if they are late, their whole day may be off balance, and they will carry a feeling of insecurity. The problem is that they are so accustomed to living in a state of timelessness in their consciousness that they have no deliberately. Let me read that over, y'all. Hold on. Let me get a drink. We're still on punctuality. Okay. I'm reading this real quick. All right, let's start right here. The problem is that they are so accustomed to living in a state of timelessness in their consciousness that they have to deliberately plan when to leave in order to get to their destination on time. Otherwise, one thing after another will distract them. It requires conscious attention on their part to be on time. One method that works is to plan in advance how much time they will need to comfortably reach their destination punctually, then add 10 minutes. Knowing when they need to leave their house helps. It also helps if they make that time inflexible in their minds. If I have to leave here at 5:07, knowing when they need to leave their house helps. It also helps if they make that time inflexible in their minds. I have to leave here at 5:07, no later. At the other extreme, some of these folks have compensated for this tendency by becoming obsessively ahead of time. They pressure themselves just to be sure that they arrive at their destination in advance. This can put them under constant stress that undermines their nervous system. It can also cause them to be intolerant and judgmental of others who are late. Once again, the path of moderation is the healthiest route. Let's see. Wow, this is the end of it. I thought it was longer than this. Okay. This is the end of it, guys. And one more page. Healing theme song. Because of the compelling way that music can emotionally support us in taking risks, I've written a healing song for each nodal group to help shift its energy in a positive direction. This is Use What You Have Right Now. The song is called Use What You Have Right Now. The message of this song is meant to effortlessly shift Virgo North nodes, focus to the details around them, helping to ground them in the physical world. This will bolster their confidence and provide a foundation of support, arousing them to take constructive action in the here and now. Selected lyrics. Why be discouraged when you have to go back? It only brings you closer to where it's all at. Life always brings just what we need to give up and suffer or break through and get freed. And you, use what you have right now. You got the tools. You're where you need to be. Watch the one, not you or me, and take the next step in front of you. And when you do, you'll get free. All right, this is in this book. This is an older book, but I got it at a used bookstore. This book has a CD with it, and I don't know if this lady, Jan Spiller has wrote a song for each nodal position. So that was the one for Virgo. See, here it is right here. These lyrics are set to music and sang in their entirety on the CD and cassette tape, unfolding as it should. This is an old book, an older book, so if you want the CD, you probably have to go online, or because the reference in the book is probably an old reference. So if you want to get that, but I don't have that. Okay, but guys, that is the end of North Node in Virgo. Sorry that I had to split it up in 3 different parts, but at that time I was having some issues with my phone, but I fixed it. So the next one we will be doing in the next video of astrology for this book, Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller, is North Node in Libra. That's the next one we're going to do. I'm going to do the air signs starting with North Node in Libra. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope it helped you. Like I said, watch part 1, part 2, part 3. It would be better to watch it in order. If you're watching this right now and you're new to the channel, then you could go back and watch part 2, part 1, part 2, and watch part 3 again. Listen to it, should I say. And this, like I said, can serve as an audiobook. All right. And if you don't want to get the book, you can just follow, you can just listen to me. All right. And I found that reading a book or listening to a book over and over reinforces the knowledge. So you listening to this over and over will allow you to store all that, to have a better understanding of this information, because astrology can get complicated. But this is where you start with the North Node. I have another book that I bought. It's called The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need. All right. And not going to tell anybody the author, but that's after we finish this book. That is the next book. And it actually shows you shows you different things, but it actually shows you how to construct a natal chart and all that. So, but we still got a long ways to go with this, but I'm reading this book right now. So, all right. So hopefully it can get you started anyway, because astrology is very in-depth. But anyway, I'm going to quit talking. I hope you found this interesting. And again, I'm sorry about especially part 2. It's only like 10 or 15 minutes. But at the time, I had to do what I had to do. Technical difficulties. You know, guys, I don't have control over that. So 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to try to get the Libra North Node in one video. All right? So it won't be so complicated. Anyway, anybody watching this video, if you're already a member of this channel, but I normally release these videos to members first. Some of them I don't release at all, but I'm going to go ahead and release this one to the public since it was three parts. If you want more, if you'd like to join our channel, Capricorn Soul Tribe Tarot, it's only $3.99 per month. All right. And you get one reading on the live stream once a month, one reading. It's usually about 15 minutes long, maybe 10 minutes, 15, 5, ever how long it takes to get through the reading on the live stream. And then we're studying astrology right now. I give you esoteric videos. You will have first access to them. And I'm not going to release all these astrology videos. So if you want the whole thing, I just want to let you know that $3.99 is very inexpensive to get a reading every month and to learn some esoteric knowledge. So if you would like to join this channel, hit the join button under Capricorn Soul Tribe Tarot. And if you would like to hit the join button, if the join button does not show up on your phone, you would need to open the channel up in Chrome, in Google Chrome, and then open it in the browser, and then the join button should show up. All right. Most people haven't been having a problem, but there are some people that have iPhones have been having a problem, but I finally figured out what the issue is. So I think another person on my live told me. So anyway, you want to get this book, Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. I will give the links where you can get this book in the description box. Next one will be North Node in Libra. Okay. I hope you guys like this. I love astrology. We're going to go into it in depth. We've got to do this book first. The next is the practical part. Okay. So anyway, I enjoy this, and I hope you guys do too. Take a look at some of my other videos. Like, subscribe, share. Thank you for listening to me, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, evening, wherever you are in the universe. Thank you, and namaste.